She only married him to save her dying mother. He only needed her for a corporate cover-up. But what started as a cold, loveless arrangement between Elena Brooks and the mysterious Damon Klein quickly unraveled into a storm of secrets, betrayal, and an unexpected, soul-shaking love. From pawnshop desperation to boardroom revenge, from staged kisses to real heartbreak, this story will leave you breathless until the very last moment. Who really is Damon Klein? And why did he risk everything for her? Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more unforgettable love stories. A soft haze bathed the gated estate of the Brooks family as Elena stood hesitantly at the iron-wrought entrance. Her fingers twisted the fraying strap of her canvas purse, the same one she'd carried since community college. Her breath trembled in her chest as she stared at the glossy mahogany doors looming ahead. She hadn't been here in years. Not since her father remarried and slowly erased her and her mother from his life like a smudge he didn't want to acknowledge. But desperation had a cruel way of dragging you back to places you'd sworn never to return. When the butler finally opened the door, Elena stepped into the vast marble foyer that smelled like polished wealth and indifference. Her father, Greg Brooks, sat in the sunken living room, a scotch in hand despite it being barely past noon. He didn't stand when she entered, just blinked and muttered, "Elena," as if saying her name left a bitter taste in his mouth. Before she could respond, Valerie, his glamorous second wife, with lips always pursed in disapproval, turned her head sharply from the staircase. "What on earth are you doing here?" Valerie's voice rang like crystal breaking. Elena swallowed her pride. "I need a loan, $100,000. Valerie scoffed. "For what? A facelift? A degree in feelings? My mom, she needs a heart transplant. Her condition's worsened, and I can't afford the hospital's timeline, the wait list. It's..." Her voice cracked. Greg blinked slowly. "That's serious." Valerie cut him off with a cold laugh. "Oh, how touching. You show up after 5 years with a sob story and expect us to write you a check?" She walked down the stairs, heels clicking like gunshots. "Honestly, Greg, the audacity. Your ex-wife chose to stay poor. Let her lie in the bed she made." Elena clenched her fists. "She didn't choose anything. You did." A slow clap echoed from behind. Madison, Valerie's daughter from her first marriage, leaned on the wall in a designer robe, sipping a smoothie. "You're funny, showing up here like a broke soap opera character. What's next? A fake baby and a secret will?" "Madison?" Greg muttered, clearly uncomfortable. But Madison's eyes gleamed. "Wait, I actually have a brilliant idea." Valerie raised an eyebrow. "Do share." Madison twirled her straw. "You remember that merger deal with the Klein family? The one that requires me to marry their shady heir, Damon? He just got out of jail, again. The man's practically radioactive." Valerie's eyes narrowed. "Yes, and?" Madison smiled wickedly. "Let her do it. Let Elena marry Damon in my place. Keep the alliance intact, and we still get the money." Greg sat up straighter. "Absolutely not." "Oh, please," Valerie snapped. "The girl's already begging for money. She clearly has no pride." "I'm not a pawn," Elena snapped. "And I'm not marrying a criminal just to save," Valerie cut in smoothly. "Then I guess your mother dies. Pity." Silence swallowed the room. Greg stared at the floor. Madison sucked on her straw, amused. And Elena, feeling the ground give out beneath her, thought of her mother's sunken eyes, her soft voice saying, "I'm fine, sweetheart, don't worry about me." Elena's lips trembled. "Will you pay the hospital if I do it?" Valerie smirked. "Every cent." Elena turned to Greg one last time, silently pleading for his voice, for his backbone. But he just looked away. "I'll do it," she whispered. Somewhere across the city, in a dim concrete room, Damon Klein leaned back on a folding chair as a guard banged on the bars. "Klein, you're out. Time to go." Damon stood slowly, brushing dust from his jeans, his lips curved into a knowing half-smile. Always knew the Brooks family would come through. Let the games begin. And as Elena walked out of the Brooks mansion that night, a part of her died. But somewhere else in the city, a man she'd never met yet was already preparing to call her his wife. Elena barely slept the night before the wedding. The cheap mattress in her tiny apartment groaned every time she turned, but it wasn't the bed keeping her awake. It was the weight of the decision she had made. By morning, her eyes were rimmed with exhaustion, her hands trembling as she slipped into the borrowed white gown that smelled faintly of lavender and old perfume. The fabric pinched her sides, and the zipper stuck halfway up. There was no veil, no bridesmaids, no warm congratulations, only silence, cold air, and a contract. The Brooks mansion had been hastily decorated. A plastic wedding arch leaned slightly in the entryway, held up by duct tape and last-minute desperation. Valerie hovered nearby, checking her watch for the third time. Greg sipped coffee as if this were any ordinary morning, and Madison lounged on a chaise, smug as ever, scrolling on her phone. "Don't worry," Greg muttered to Alina, barely looking at her. "I'm sure the groom will show up soon." "As long as you keep your word," Alina said under her breath. Valerie didn't even glance her way. "Just get it done, and you'll get the money. That's the deal." Guests trickled in, neighbors, distant relatives, people from Greg's business circle. Most were there for the gossip. Elena could hear them whispering behind her back. "I can't believe she's marrying Damon Klein. Isn't he the guy who spent time in lockup? I heard he hangs with mobsters, probably has a gun tucked into his tux." Elena tuned them out. She stared at the floor, jaw tight. Just as she was about to excuse herself to the bathroom and maybe never come back, the heavy doors creaked open. The room stilled. A tall man stepped inside, his presence impossibly calm. His jet-black hair was slicked back, and a faint smirk played on his lips. "Sorry I'm late," he said, his voice like warm whiskey over ice. "You must be the bride. I'm Damon Klein." Elena's heart dropped to her stomach. He was nothing like she expected. He wasn't grungy or rough. He looked dangerously composed, like a wolf in a tailored suit. The officiant cleared his throat and began the ceremony with forced cheer. "We gather here today to witness the union of Damon Klein and Elena Brooks." Damon leaned in slightly, speaking under his breath. "Funny, I was told I'd be marrying Madison Brooks." Elena whispered, "I'm the older one. Our father divorced my mother when I was 3. He tilted his head, amused. "So you're the black sheep too. You disappointed?" He looked at her, his eyes gleaming with something unreadable. "Can't say that I am. You?" she exhaled. "Same." The vows passed in a blur. "Do you take Damon?" "I do. Do you take Elena?" "I do." The kiss was brief, just a brush of his lips on her cheek, polite, distant, and then it was done. Elena Brooks was now Elena Klein. Damon led her to a sleek, dark car waiting outside. She glanced back once at the Brooks mansion. Valerie was already talking to someone else. Madison didn't even wave goodbye. The drive was quiet. Damon didn't speak until they reached the outskirts of the city. The car pulled into the driveway of a modest one-story home, surprisingly clean and understated. No security gates, no flashy cars, just a little blue mailbox and a creaky porch swing. "This is it?" Elena asked, stepping out onto the gravel. Damon shrugged. "Our home." "Our what?" He pushed open the front door. "We're married. Married people live together." Elena walked into a cozy, sunlit living room with mismatched furniture and a lingering scent of lemon cleaner. "It's nice," she offered, unsure. "There's only one bedroom, so unless you want the couch." She turned scarlet. "I'm not ready for that." He smirked. "Relax. I'm not that kind of guy. You can have the bed. I'll take the couch." Elena relaxed just a little. "Thank you." He sat down on the arm of the sofa, suddenly businesslike. "Let's get something straight. I know this marriage wasn't your idea, Matt. It wasn't mine either. So let's not pretend. In public, we'll play the perfect couple. Privately, we stay out of each other's lives. When the trust fund releases in 6 months, we'll divorce." She nodded slowly. "Deal." His expression softened for a moment. "One more thing. While we're married, I expect respect. Don't embarrass me and I won't embarrass you." "Of course." He leaned back, stretching. "Oh, and don't get pregnant with someone else's kid. That would be awkward." She blinked. "Don't worry. That's not even on my list of problems." He nodded, satisfied. "Good. Welcome to the Klein household, Mrs. Elena." And just like that, she stepped into a life she never asked for, standing beside a man she didn't know, with a heart still aching for a mother who had no idea what her daughter had sacrificed. The morning sun filtered through the thin curtains of the modest home as the scent of frying eggs filled the air. Damon stepped into the kitchen, shirt sleeves rolled up, his dark hair slightly tousled from sleep. He paused when he saw Elena standing at the stove, flipping eggs in a pan with quiet concentration. She looked so natural there, barefoot, her hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing one of his oversized t-shirts. For a moment, something strange fluttered in his chest. "You made breakfast?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. She glanced over her shoulder. Yeah, thought it might help us feel, I don't know, less like strangers. He chuckled, taking a seat at the small, rickety kitchen table. Can't argue with that. I have to return my wedding dress later, she said, placing a plate in front of him. I rented it. He blinked. Your dad didn't even buy you a wedding dress? She gave a small shrug. It seemed wasteful to spend that kind of money on something I'd wear once. Damon picked up his fork, but his appetite was dulled by a slow-burning irritation. He watched her retreat down the hall, then pulled out his phone. Colton, he said the moment the call connected. Get me everything you can on Elena Brooks, where she grew up, where she went to school, everything. And run it quiet. Later that morning, Elena stood outside a sleek bridal boutique, clutching a box with her satin heels and the wedding dress folded neatly inside. The clerk at the counter barely looked up. These shoes have scuffs, the woman said flatly. You'll need to pay a restoration fee. Elena frowned. But they're rentals. There's bound to be wear and tear. They're designer. It's $500. Her heart sank. That's more than I paid to rent the whole outfit. The clerk sneered. Then maybe you should have worn cheaper shoes. Just as Elena opened her mouth to argue, a familiar voice sliced through the tension. That pair is too ugly for my wife, Damon said smoothly, stepping inside. Elena's eyes widened. Damon? He turned to the clerk. She'll take the red-bottomed limited editions, the $7,000 ones. The clerk perked up. Excellent choice. Damon? No, Elena hissed. That's insane. Don't waste money like that. He smiled faintly. It's my wedding gift to you. She stared at him. How do you even know my shoe size? I'm your husband, he said simply. I notice things. Moments later, they sat in a quiet corner cafe. The shoe bag sat by Elena's feet, untouched. You didn't have to do that, she said softly. I wanted to. But why? He shrugged. Maybe I like seeing you flustered. She gave a small laugh, but her smile faded as her phone buzzed. A message from the hospital. Outstanding balance due, $47,650. Damon watched her face cloud over. Something wrong? She tucked the phone away. Just life. That night, back at her father's home, Elena stood at the door, her fists clenched. When Madison answered, she was flaunting a new designer purse. Where's Dad? Elena asked. He's not here, Madison said. Nice shoes, by the way. Guess Damon's good for something. I'm here for the money you promised. The hospital says the bill's still unpaid. Valerie appeared in the hall. I said we'd give you the money. I never said when. Elena's eyes flashed. What's the delay? My mother could die. Valerie folded her arms. Not our problem. I married Damon for you. You made me do this. Valerie's face twisted. You think we owe you something? You're lucky we let you in the house. I'm drowning in debt, Elena cried. You owe me that much. And then came the slap. Hard. Unforgiving. Elena's head snapped to the side, cheek burning. Get out, Valerie spat. Ungrateful little leech. Tears stunned Elena's eyes as she turned and ran. Back at the house, Damon was in the kitchen slicing vegetables when Elena walked in, eyes red, her voice tight. Hey, he greeted. Hungry? She didn't answer. He looked up and froze. A bruise was forming on her cheek. Elena, his voice dropped. What happened? Nothing. I ran into a door. Don't lie to me. He stepped forward, gently tilting her chin. Who did this? I'm fine, she whispered. I just need a shower. She slipped past him, but Damon remained still, fury brewing behind his calm exterior. Later they sat at the table in silence. Damon's hands itched to do something, anything, but all he could do was offer what he could. I'll cook for you. Every night, if that helps, he said quietly. She looked up, startled. Why? Because no one else will. And just like that, something between them began to shift. Something real. Something neither of them expected. The next morning arrived with the kind of golden calm that betrayed the chaos simmering just below the surface. Elena's phone buzzed on the nightstand, and she blinked awake to see a message from Zara, her best friend. Elle, wake up. You've got an interview at Stratton and Mace today at 10. Wear something that says, I'm brilliant, but underappreciated. Still groggy, Elena slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Damon on the couch. He'd stayed true to his word, sleeping there every night, no matter how late he returned from mysterious errands. She quickly dressed in the one professional outfit she owned and scribbled a note. Interview today. Wish me luck. P.S. There's coffee. Damon woke just in time to see her rushing out the door, bag slung over her shoulder. His eyes lingered on the empty space where she'd stood, then drifted toward the mug she'd left on the counter. He smiled faintly. She was beginning to feel like home. At Stratton and Mace, Elena waited anxiously in the gleaming reception area, her nerves clashing with the modern glass and marble decor. Her heart thudded as a woman in a sharp burgundy blazer emerged. Serena. Elena froze. "Hello, Elena," Serena said, smiling tightly. "Didn't expect to see you again after college." "I didn't expect to see you either," Elena replied, forcing a professional tone. "I'll be handling your interview," Serena said, eyes glinting. "We'll see if you're a fit for our culture." Elena followed her into the sleek office, trying to stay composed. The questions were cutting, clearly meant to rattle her. Serena glanced at Elena's resume and gave a short laugh. "You worked at a grocery store?" "Part-time while I was taking care of my mother," Elena said evenly. "I graduated top of my class." Serena smirked. "Grades don't mean much in the real world. I don't think this is a good fit." Elena walked out of the building, barely holding herself together. She called Zara from a bench outside a nearby coffee shop. "She humiliated me, Zara. She only interviewed me to watch me squirm." "That witch," Zara hissed. "I'm so sorry, Elle." Elena tried to breathe through the tightness in her chest. "I'll figure something else out. I always do." Later that afternoon, desperation drove her to do the unthinkable. She took the designer red-bottom shoes Damon had bought her, still pristine in their box, and entered a pawn shop tucked between a laundromat and a vape store. The clerk gave her a once-over and offered $2,000. "These cost $7," she argued. He shrugged. "Take it or leave it." Her hand tightened on the box. The shoes were the only luxury she'd ever owned, a reminder that someone, for once, had cared enough to give her something beautiful. She turned to leave. "Wait," the clerk said. $3,000, that's my final offer." She hugged the box to her chest. "No, I can't." She stepped onto the street, blinking back tears, and that's when the men approached. "Hey there, pretty lady," one of them leered. "What you got in the box?" "Back off," she said, trying to move past them. But they blocked her path. "How about we see what's inside?" One reached out to grab her arm, then a low, deadly voice rang out. "Take your hand off my wife." Damon appeared out of nowhere, dark eyes blazing. The men faltered, unsure. "You don't want to do this," he warned. One sneered. "What if I do?" Damon's jaw clenched. "Which hand did you use to touch her?" The guy laughed nervously. "What?" In a flash, Damon had him pinned against the wall. "I asked you a question. Please, man, we were just following orders." Damon froze. "What orders?" The other guy blurted. "Nick Volov. He said she refused to sell, and he wanted to scare her." Damon's expression turned glacial. "Tell Volov, Bash Monroe is coming." The men scattered. That night, back in their small kitchen, Damon gently wiped a tear from Elena's cheek. "You could have been hurt," he said softly. "Why didn't you ask me for help? Because you said this wasn't real?" She whispered, "That we'd pretend and then separate. But everything's falling apart. My mom's bills, the job, the debt, I'm drowning." Before he could respond, she leaned in and kissed him. It was sudden and messy, but real. When she pulled back, he looked stunned. "I'm sorry," she murmured. But Damon shook his head slowly. "Don't be. I've been waiting for you to kiss me first." And in that kitchen, surrounded by flickering lights and half-finished dinner, something real finally bloomed. Elena stood in the walk-in closet of the penthouse apartment, holding up 2 dresses. The fabric shimmered under the chandelier light as she debated which one to wear for the upcoming Stratton and Mace Company gala. Her heart thudded in her chest. Nerves, excitement, and something she couldn't quite name. Damon leaned in the doorway, arms crossed, a slow smile creeping across his face. "Planning to wow the whole boardroom?" he teased. She smirked, holding the hangers against her. "You think I should go with classic black or the wine red?" He walked over, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Try them on, I'll tell you." She gave him a playful nudge. "Don't peek." No promises. She turned away, cheeks warm, not just from his teasing but the intimacy that had slowly crept into their lives. The past few days had been filled with small, quiet moments. Coffee shared in the morning, the way his hand brushed against hers when they passed each other in the kitchen, the way his eyes lingered just a little too long. Everything that started as pretense was beginning to feel dangerously real. When she finally slipped into the black dress, Damon's eyes darkened. "That one," he said hoarsely. "Definitely that one." She laughed, the sound light and real, and stepped into his arms without thinking. Their lips met again, no hesitation this time. The kiss deepened, unspoken words passed between them, and for a moment, all the walls Damon had built came crashing down. Later, as they lay together in the quiet aftermath, his voice broke the silence. "Elena, there's something I need to tell you." She turned toward him, her fingers tracing his collarbone. "What is it?" He hesitated, the weight of everything he'd hidden pressing on his chest. "I haven't been completely honest with you. The marriage, the trust fund, it's more complicated than you think. My real name." But before he could finish, she had already drifted off to sleep, her breathing slow and even. The next morning, Damon woke alone. A message buzzed on his phone. He grabbed it from the nightstand and read, "I know who you are, Bash Monroe. If you want to protect her, meet me at the Ritz-Carlton, room 808. You have 30 minutes. Cursing under his breath, Damon dressed quickly, pressing a kiss to Elena's forehead before slipping out the door. While he was gone, everything began to unravel. Lauren appeared at the penthouse uninvited, armed with a stack of glossy photographs. She dropped them onto the kitchen counter in front of Elena like a bomb. "You really thought he loved you?" she said with venom. "That's funny, because he was with Madison, in a hotel, last night." Elena stared at the photos. Damon, unconscious on a bed, Madison lying beside him, tousled and smiling at the camera. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered. "Oh, honey," Lauren sneered, "it's exactly what it looks like." Elena's hands shook as she stuffed her belongings into a suitcase. Her heart ached, not just with betrayal, but with the sting of everything she'd fought so hard to protect. Trust, dignity, the fragile hope she had finally found something real. When Damon returned, breathless from a confrontation with the man who blackmailed him, he found Elena by the elevator, suitcase in hand. "Elena, wait," he called, voice cracking. She didn't look at him. "Save it, I saw the photos." "It's not what you think," he said, stepping in front of her. "Madison set me up, she drugged me, I went to meet someone else. I would never—" "You lied about everything," she said, her voice shaking. "About your name, your money, your past. I tried to tell you, but you didn't." He reached for her hand. "I didn't plan for any of this, Matt, but you. You weren't part of the plan, Elena. You're more. You're everything." Tears brimmed in her eyes. "It's too late." She walked past him, into the waiting cab. That night, as the world buzzed with news of Bash Monroe's hostile takeover of the Monroe-Klein empire, Elena sat by her mother's hospital bed, watching the story unfold on the TV. Her mother turned to her and smiled faintly. "He came to see me, you know. Said he wanted to give you the world, just needed time to fix what was broken." Elena swallowed hard. "He should have told me. He was trying to protect you." Back at the penthouse, Damon sat alone, a single ring box open in his hand. The city lights reflected in the window, but all he saw was her, walking away. A knock on the door broke the silence. He opened it. Elena stood there, hair wind-blown, eyes full of fire. "You still have that dress picked out for the gala?" she asked. His heart lifted. "Yeah. Then I guess I should try it on, one more time." And as the door closed behind her, the night air outside stirred with the promise of a new beginning. Sometimes the people who come into our lives unexpectedly are the ones who leave the deepest marks. Elena and Damon's journey reminds us that love built on sacrifice, truth, and vulnerability can heal even the most broken hearts. What began as a transaction, cold, calculated, and born out of desperation, grew into something tender, fierce, and real. It teaches us that honesty is a risk worth taking, and that trust, once broken, can still be rebuilt with patience and sincerity. Even when surrounded by betrayal, manipulation, and doubt, Elena found her voice, and Damon, his purpose. They taught us that while we may not get to choose the cards we're dealt, we do get to choose how we play them. And sometimes the greatest power isn't in controlling others, but in letting someone in. No matter where you come from, or how messy your past may be, you are worthy of real love. The kind that sees you, the kind that stays. If this story moved you, we'd love to know. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss another emotional and inspiring love story. Your next favorite tale is just a click away.